Level 1. The candidate. You're 18. You didn't find the Air Force. The Air Force found you. Your high school physics teacher submitted your name to a ROTC recruiter after you scored in the top 0.5% of a national aptitude assessment. 3 weeks later, a senior officer sits across from you in a plain conference room at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama and slides a single sheet across the table. Do you know what this program produces? He asks. You don't. Not really. Ghost pilots, he says. Men and women who fly aircraft that officially aren't there. You sign on a Tuesday. By Thursday, everything you thought flying meant, the glamour, the speed, the glory, gets quietly dismantled. This isn't about being seen. This entire career will be built around never being seen. Basic training breaks you down the way it breaks everyone down. But the candidates selected for the stealth track face something additional. Sensory deprivation exercises, extended isolation simulations, psychological endurance assessments that have no published passing criteria. One candidate beside you in week 3 breaks down during a 14-hour blackout exercise and is reassigned by morning. You learn the first rule early. Composure isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to function inside it. 12 weeks later, you're not a pilot yet. You're not even close, but you're still here. And in this program, that already means something. Level 2. The student pilot. You're 22. Undergraduate pilot training at Vance Air Force Base, Oklahoma. You fly T-6 Texans first. Small, loud, honest aircraft that punish every mistake immediately. And then T-38 Talons. Supersonic, unforgiving, beautiful. Your class starts with 24 candidates. By month 8, there are 17. You are not the most naturally gifted pilot in the room. You know this. A man named Torres from New Mexico can feel an aircraft the way other people feel their own heartbeat. But Torres washes out in month 10 because he can't sit still long enough to pass the classified briefing retention protocols. You pass because you do the quiet work. You study approach vectors at 11 p.m. You run instrument simulations on your days off. You understand something Torres never did. Raw talent gets you airborne. Discipline keeps you there. Your instructor, a weathered lieutenant colonel who flew B-2 missions over Kosovo in 1999, pulls you aside after a particularly clean night navigation exercise. "Why, you're not the flashiest up there," he says. "But you make no unnecessary moves. That's rarer than you think." You file that away. You will think about it for the rest of your career. Level 3. The mission-ready wingman. You're 26. Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri. Home of the 509th Bomb Wing. Home of the B-2 Spirit. The first time you see one up close, it stops you cold. It doesn't look like an aircraft. It looks like a shadow that decided to become solid. 172 feet of wingspan. Radar cross-section equivalent to a large bird. It costs $2.1 billion per airframe, and they are going to let you fly it. Initial qualification training lasts months. You study low-observable coding maintenance, mission planning systems, nuclear delivery protocols, and threat environment navigation. You fly alongside experienced aircraft commanders, absorbing everything and saying very little. Your first solo mission segment is a simulated penetration exercise over a defended range in Nevada. No weapons, no support aircraft. Just you, the aircraft, and several hundred miles of radar installations trying to find you. They don't. You land at 0300 hours. The debrief lasts 4 hours. Your aircraft commander identifies 11 things you could have done more efficiently. You write all 11 down. That night, you understand something about stealth that no classroom communicated cleanly. This aircraft doesn't win by being faster or louder than the threat. It wins by being invisible to it entirely. And so must you, Level 4, the aircraft commander. You're 30. You've logged over 800 hours in the B-2. You've flown combat support missions during operations in Afghanistan. You've completed 2 nuclear certification cycles. And now, for the first time, the aircraft is entirely yours to command. The left seat changes everything. Responsibility for the mission. Responsibility for the aircraft. Responsibility for the weapons officer beside you who is trusting your judgment at 40,000 feet over hostile airspace with no fighter escort, no electronic jamming support, and no margin for error in timing. A mission over a denied access region, the details of which remain classified at the highest levels, requires you to make a real-time routing decision when a surface-to-air missile radar activates 40 nautical miles ahead of your planned track. Your systems show a solution. The solution adds 22 minutes to your ingress. You take it without hesitating. You never see a missile. You never hear a radar lock. You land, debrief, eat a cold sandwich, and sleep for 9 hours. That mission does not appear on any public record. No announcement is made. There is no commendation. A week later, a senior officer passes you in the corridor and says only, "Good routing call." That's all. That is enough. You begin to understand that in stealth aviation, the measure of excellence is a sky that stays quiet. Level 5. The instructor pilot. You're 34. They bring you back to Whiteman to build the next generation. You now sit in the right seat, watching new aircraft commanders make the same 11 mistakes you once made, plus new ones you've never seen before. Your job is not to prevent every error. Your job is to let them feel the weight of each decision and survive it with you present to catch the ones that could turn fatal. A student pilot named Reyes, sharp and technically precise, freezes during a simulated weapons delivery abort sequence at 28,000 feet. Full cognitive lockup. 12 seconds of silence when 4 seconds is already too long. After landing, you don't raise your voice. You sit across from Reyes in the debrief room and say quietly, "Walk me through the moment it went silent in your head." Reyes does. You listen. Then you say, "The aircraft didn't fail. The procedure didn't fail. You stopped trusting the training. We're going to fix that." 3 months later, Reyes is one of your sharpest students. You learn something about instruction that they don't write in the syllabus. The best thing you can give a new pilot isn't more information. It's the confidence to act on what they already know. Level 6, the squadron commander. You're 39. You command the 393rd Bomb Squadron, 12 aircraft, 60 personnel. The oldest bomb squadron in continuous operation in the United States Air Force, with a lineage that runs directly back to the Enola Gay crew of 1945. You carry that history carefully. Your first year in command, a maintenance irregularity on 2 aircraft grounds them during a high-priority readiness exercise. The maintenance chief, a 22-year master sergeant, comes to you expecting to absorb the full impact. You sit with him for 2 hours, reviewing the inspection chain that allowed the discrepancy through. The failure was systemic, as not individual. You report it up the chain as a process failure. Implement a revised dual verification protocol and return both aircraft to service ahead of schedule. The master sergeant never forgets it. Neither do you. Command teaches you something fieldwork never could. A unit doesn't reflect its best pilot. It reflects its leader's standards every single day in every single detail. Level 7, the wing commander. You're 44. You now command the entire 509th Bomb Wing. Every B-2 in operational service. Every pilot, weapon systems officer, maintainer, and intelligence analyst falls under your authority. The operational tempo in 2017 is relentless. Tensions across the Pacific demand continuous readiness posturing. Or you deploy aircraft to Anderson Air Force Base in Guam as a visible deterrent signal during a period of elevated regional tension. The mission isn't to drop anything. The mission is to exist somewhere visible to the right people and invisible to everyone else. You fly one of those missions yourself. Not because you need to, because the pilots under your command need to see that their wing commander still trusts what they trust. still sits in the same seat, still faces the same dark sky. You land to find a message from the Pacific Air Force's commander waiting. The deterrence posture has had the intended effect. Diplomatic channels have opened. Nobody fired anything. A war that didn't happen is still a war that didn't happen. At this level, the victories are measured in the catastrophes that never began. Level 8. The General. While you're 50, you wear 2 stars now. You are the Director of Global Strike Integration at Air Force Global Strike Command, Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana. You no longer fly. You direct the strategy that determines when, where, and why aircraft like the B-2 enter contested airspace. You sit in rooms with combatant commanders, Joint Chiefs Staff Officers, and occasionally the Secretary of Defense. You translate the language of aircraft performance envelopes into the language of geopolitical consequence. The B-21 Raider is entering service now. The B-2's successor. Longer range, lower observability, more capable. You have spent 2 years working the transition doctrine, ensuring that decades of institutional knowledge embedded in B-2 operations transfers cleanly to the new platform. And a young program manager asks you what the most important lesson from the B-2 program is. You think for a moment. The aircraft is only as invisible as the culture that maintains it, you say. One compromised coding panel, one missed calibration, one procedural shortcut, and you've turned a ghost into a target. The technology isn't the discipline, the people are. He writes it down. You hope he keeps it? Level 9. The Advisor. You're 56. A new administration. A new Air Force Chief of Staff. A restructured command hierarchy. You are offered a senior advisory role with the Air Force's Future Concepts Division. No aircraft. No command authority. Just your accumulated judgment. Offered freely to the people now carrying decisions you used to carry. You consult on the doctrine framework for penetrating anti-access environments in a near-peer conflict scenario. You sit in working groups where colonels, half your age, present solutions to problems you encountered in different forms 20 years ago. You offer context without ego. You know that the worst thing an advisor can do is make experience sound like authority. One evening, a young major asks you whether stealth platforms will still matter in 20 years, given the acceleration of counter-stealth radar technologies. You lean back and say, the specific technology will change. It always changes. What won't change is the fundamental value of being somewhere the enemy doesn't expect, doing something they can't stop before they understand what's happened. That principle is older than aviation, and stealth is just the current form it takes. He nods slowly. You can see him turning it over. You have learned that the deepest expertise is not holding the answer. It's knowing which question actually matters. Level 10. The Invisible Legacy. You're 64. Your name does not appear in any publicly available account of the operations you flew or commanded. The sorties over denied airspace. The deterrence missions that prevented conflicts the public never knew were close. The doctrine you shaped that will govern how stealth air power is employed for the next 30 years. A defense journalist publishes a widely praised book on the history of stealth aviation. The B-2 program receives extensive coverage. Your era at the 509th receives 2 paragraphs. Your name is not in either of them. You read those 2 paragraphs in an armchair on a Saturday morning and feel nothing except a faint recognition. The journalist understood the hardware. Nobody outside a handful of classified vaults will ever fully understand the human architecture behind it. Your daughter asks you once, years ago, what you actually did in all those years of flying. You told her the truth, within the limits of what you could say. I went places nobody was supposed to know about, and I came home. And because I went, certain things that could have happened didn't. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Is that enough?" You didn't answer immediately. You thought about Reyes in the debrief room. You thought about the routing call over the radar that never locked. What you thought about the aircraft in Guam and the diplomatic channel that opened afterward, and the news cycle that never mentioned any of it. It has to be, you said, because the work was never built for recognition. It was built for a specific, quiet, essential purpose, to protect the sky by disappearing into it. And somewhere over the decades between that conference room in Alabama and this Saturday morning in an armchair, you made peace with being the part of history that history doesn't get to write. The sky is still free. That's enough.